Pressure bandages. Some are round or rolled pressure bandages. Some are flat pressure bandages. Doesn't matter, either one, whichever you have. These are essentially giant band-aids. It's an ace wrap with a large piece of gauze attached to it. Pressure bandages tend to go hand in hand with wound packing gauze or compressed gauze. Talking about wound packing, this is our wound. We have an entry wound here, simulated entry wound here, simulated exit wound here. The question is often, which wound do I pack? We're going to use our eyeballs. We're going to observe whichever one is bleeding more grievously, that's the one we're going to pack. If you have multiple packages of gauze, you can pack both wounds. But for the intent of this demonstration, we're going to pack the exit wound. You're going to take your gauze. You're going to find this little tear right here. Pull your gauze out, like so. And it is a block of gauze. You're going to smush it. That's a technical term. We're going to smush it back and forth until we get one end of the gauze out. You can, and I recommend, you put a knot at the end of the gauze. The way that this works is just like a tourniquet compresses the bleeding vessel. The gauze compresses the bleeding vessel. The idea is not to fill the hole, the wound, full of gauze to form a giant clot the size of your hand. The idea is to use the pressure of the gauze to press the bleeding vessel closed. Now, if you can't ascertain where the bleeding vessel is inside of the wound, packing the wound full of gauze will form a clot. But ideally, we're forming as much pressure as we can onto the bleeding vessel. So, the way that we do this, I'm right-handed, so I'm going to take the knot in my right hand and the package of gauze in my left. I'm going to take the knot, I'm going to drive it down to the bleeding vessel inside the wound while holding pressure on it. I'm going to pull 8 to 10 inches of gauze out, gather it up, take this thumb, press it into the wound, holding constant pressure inside the wound. Take my other thumb, press it into the wound. Now, a couple of important things here. The first is this wound is not one-dimensional. It blooms out, just like a gunshot in a block of ballistic gel does. It'll bloom out. So there's dimension to this. So you don't want to push just straight down. You want to be pushing in all directions. The other is I'm holding constant pressure with my fingers on the gauze. I'm not coming in and out, constant pressure. The last is, depending on the wound, you may or may not be able to get your thumbs in there. So if it's pinkies, it's pinkies. If it's pointer fingers, it's pointer fingers. Whatever you can to pack the wound. So holding pressure, pull out some more gauze, lay it over the wound, press in, press in, press in, press in, filling every void that I can inside the wound until it simply will not give anymore. I cannot get any more gauze inside of there. Then what I like to do is take the remainder of the gauze, lay it over the top of the wound, holding pressure, take my elbow or my knee if I need to. This frees up both of my hands. I get my pressure bandage, tear my pressure bandage open. Try again. There we go. Tear my pressure bandage open, get this guy out. And this is just a large Band-Aid. That's all it is. It's got intermittent Velcro throughout it. Big ace wrap with a 6x6 gauze pad on it. I'm going to take this, lay it over the top of the wound like so, holding pressure. You'll note here is just a large piece of Velcro. The first wrap of this bandage is just to get it to stick. I just want it to stick so it'll hold on. The following wraps, now I'm going to start to apply pressure, because the whole point is to get enough pressure on that bleeding vessel that it pinches the artery closed. So you can really pull it tight at this point. Now, your patient is probably not going to be too happy with you. That's okay. We're saving their life. Lastly, we have a big piece of Velcro here. I'm going to put the Velcro on not over the wound. Okay? The reason for that is the Velcro can lift the wound packing gauze away from the wound. So we want the Velcro offset 90 degrees or 180 degrees from the wound. Finally, there's these little plastic clips on the end. You can use that to secure the pressure bandage to itself like so. We use wound packing in our junctional areas, in our shoulders, in our neck, our hips, our pelvic girdle, our rear end, places where we can't compress a bleeding vessel with a tourniquet. So again, wound packing and pressure bandages in the shoulders, the neck, pelvic girdle, hips, your rear end. That's wound packing.